account-based marketing sphere, I assume. Is that mostly business to business?
Yes, mostly business to business. Account-based marketing is really focused on businesses. Because in the end, businesses are what buys your products, not just the that IT decision maker that we all chase.
As we'll discuss in length today. So, Hsiaolei, I'm just going to go through the contents with you. We're going to kind of divide this webinar into two. We have our wonderful producers, Emma and Alexa, in the background, and they're there to send any questions in. If you have any questions, tell us. If you're tell us how you're doing with your account-based marketing. Are you at the pilot stage? Are you maybe in the early mature stage or just starting out, but you've got a bit of track record behind you? Are you kind of in the middle of your journey, or are you reaching maturity and you've got quite a lot of work behind you in terms of your account-based marketing strategy? Let us know. Also, let us know any challenges that you might have or any wins that you've had with your ABM strategy. We definitely want to hear that. Drop that in the chat and we'll hope to get to that later in the presentation. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss first some stats and look at some surveys and look at why ABM is so popular at the moment. Then we're going to discuss some of the fundamental principles of how it's set up. We're going to look at the differences between kind of demand gen marketing and inbound marketing. And then we're going to go to our expert guest and we're going to discuss challenges and implementation of ABM in a kind of real scenario. And then we'll finish with a recap, kind of hammering home the points of why we need ABM and what kind of business climate we're in at the moment that requires us to start adopting and becoming effective with our account-based marketing strategy. Now, does that sound okay to you, Hsiaolei?
Sounds perfect.
All right, so I'm going to start. I think you'll know most of this stuff, being an expert in the field, but I'm going to go through the next 10 minutes and cover that. And then I'll see you back in about 10, 15 minutes time as we deal with the second part of our webinar, okay? Right, so let's start with why use ABM based on some stats and some surveys. Now, we at MediaBrains have gone and aggregated loads of data, loads of stats and surveys from different companies, different marketing organizations, and try to bring all the best of that into one presentation so it's easy for you to digest. So if you need to take a screenshot or anything, or you want to take notes, it's a perfect opportunity to do that. Create some water cooler moments and ideas for your colleagues in your business. So firstly, 67% of brands, according to HubSpot, are leveraging account-based marketing. That's 2/3 at least of businesses are using it now. And I imagine that is ever increasing. Now, really, organizations that have this strong ICP, this ideal customer profile, organizations that can keep that person in mind and really define who that person is, will achieve a 68% higher win rate. Now, it sounds like fantasy, but if you look at the return of investment, it says 87% of B2B marketers who are surveyed by Ixma are saying that their ABM initiatives are actually outperforming their other marketing in terms of their return of investment. So I can see why people are very hungry to get this to do this strategy. Hsiaolei, are these figures ringing true to you in terms of a return on investment? I mean, 171%. I mean, I've looked at figures from 50% up, but that's very high.
Yeah. What's great about account-based marketing is that it's not actually one strategy, right? It's thinking about accounts through everything that you do across marketing and sales. So actually these numbers 100% ring true to me, but it's also because literally you can find stats where it's outperforming every initiative, right? So like using account intelligence in demand gen, using account intelligence in email outreach, right? It's actually really easy because there's always a stat to sort of show of where you can sort of see a delta in performance. So absolutely it rings true for me.
All right, so I'm looking at this and I'm like, right, I need to start my ABM strategy. I need to do it. I'm behind. 67% of people are doing it and I'm worried and I need to start making revenue. I need to start improving my win rate. But am I suitable for it? Who is it for, essentially? Is ABM for everyone?
I think that, so little biased here, but I think 100%. And I actually come from sales, and then I've sort of entered into much more of a marketing role. And from a sales perspective, of course, do I want to be engaging with a whole account? So whenever I sell my products and services, I'll be aware of all the things going on at that account. I'm going to win more deals that way. Of course I do, right? And I think that applies to certainly everybody in B2B, and certainly, the ones where it'll be sort of easier to show those wins will just be, if you're selling to at least a small to mid-size market, right? If you're selling to micros like solo, practitioners, it is just that single decision maker. But once you're talking to an account of 10 people, 3 people at that 10-person company are going to have some sway on the decision to work with you or not. And so for really anyone that's working with customers of I think at least that size, you're going to have some real benefits understanding and thinking about your prospects as accounts.
And is it kind of an exclusively a B2B strategy in that respect, or is there some kind of B2C leverage here for this strategy?
No, certainly there's a lot that can be done in B2C. Just our focus has really been on the B2B side. And on the B2C side, the easiest wins will be on the channel relationships, right? The one to a channel partner and then to consumers.
Right. So you touched upon it there that the buyer isn't an individual. The buyer is, as we say, part of a decision-making unit. A DMU is one of the part of the glossary of terms we'll discuss today. Decision-making unit. Now, in this slide, it's like ABM is about developing meaningful long-term relationships, but you have to build that relationship with a unit rather than an individual. I mean, how would you go about that? I mean, that sounds quite challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it's understanding all the parts into the to the decision-making process. And honestly, a lot of sales is familiar with sort of everybody that's going to come into play. And there's also plenty of research that you can just sort of see. But marketers know that as well, right? You've got personas already, right? When you're setting up campaigns, you're thinking, this is the decision maker. This is the technical, person that's going to deploy this. This is an influencer. So you're already thinking in personas. Now understand that all of those personas equal the buying committee rather than I just need to please that decision maker. Because it's always bigger than that. And also those are harder to track, right? Because the decision maker probably has a junior person downloading the white paper.
There you go. And it's important to kind of be able to reach both those people. Now, we've got some questions coming in, which we're going to tackle at the end. And this is great. Please keep your questions up. Tell us where you are with your journey. Tell us your challenges and give us your insight. We really want that. We want to share that with the group today. That's what it's all about. We have some of those questions coming in, so please keep them coming in. So 90% of companies say their top goal of their ABM efforts is new business generation. And we're going to talk about that in terms of the differences between, traditional account-based marketing and inbound ABM marketing in a minute. But before we do that, we're going to look at some fundamentals. So out of all of our research, we've kind of deciphered that there are really 4 pillars to ABM. We've kind of discussed this a bit before, Hsiaolei. Client centricity, solving the buyer's problem. The buyer is not an individual, the buyer is a group. Partnership between sales and marketing. ABM will only achieve its potential when sales and marketing work together as equal collaborators. Focus on reputation, relationships, not just revenue. Those are the 3 R's we'll look into in a couple of slides into more detail. And tailoring programs and crafting personalized content. That for me is one of the more interesting ones, because that's something we have to get on and start doing as content marketers. How do you craft personalized? What is personalized content to you, Hsiaolei? What does that mean?
That means that if anybody follows anything that I do on social media, they'll know I'm an avid pug lover. And if you throw a pug in an email, I will 100% open it and probably call you back.
That's it. So
perhaps you don't want to get as deep all the time, but that's what it is essentially, right?
It's knowing what they're into.
Right. But it's not just personal interest, right? What are my needs? What role do I have at my company? What challenges am I potentially facing that you can solve for, right? It's to lead the communication in the direction that you want it to go. And if you can do a little hack like sending a picture of a pug, I always recommend it.
Exactly. You solve the buyer's problem and you kind of please them at the same time. Attract, delight, and engage our customers, which is part of a kind of new methodology of experience-based marketing, something we'll be discussing as well. Now, this is the ABM journey. So we've gone and picked our ideal customer profile, Then we've gone and looked at our business, looked at our accounts, selected our accounts, uncovered our market and customers through insights, proposed a value proposition, dealt with a campaign strategy, designed our ABM experience, executed our campaign, and then hopefully at the end we can have a return on our investment and we can measure the success of that investment. How do we measure the success of our ABM journey, or how do you do it?
It's there's a lot of traditional marketing metrics, right? Open rates, click rates. Yeah. But the real value, especially when you have that partnership between sales and marketing, is it's not just right on those traditional things, which we all want to see improve. But let's think about marketing source pipeline. Let's think about pipeline effect, right? Are you moving deals down the pipeline faster at a faster rate, higher contract value, right? That's where you get to really show this is the power of marketing. I'm actually affecting this $10 million, which is obviously a nice story to complement. And I improved the open rate by 100%.
Exactly. Well, there you go. Now you see the journey. I don't know what stage of this journey that you might be on with some of your customers, but we had 4 pillars. We love numbers. We love shapes in marketing. 4 pillars and 3 tiers. This is very important. If you don't know anything about account-based marketing, or if you're in your infancy in your understanding of it, pay attention to these few slides. Tiered strategy. We have 3 strategies. Let's go through the first. And as we go up this pyramid, where we narrow in on individuals or a small group of accounts rather than loads of accounts, we increase our personalization and engagement with those customers. So the first is called one-to-one. We can see at the top of the pyramid. It's otherwise known as strategic ABM. Now it requires a handful of accounts, literally 2 or 3, maybe 4 accounts. It requires a deep account buyer committee insights. It's your most important accounts, what we used to call key accounts in the business. And that's your one-to-one strategy at the top. It's where you look to feed your largest amount of business generation from those key accounts. An 80-20 strategy. You can see at the top that triangle takes up 20% of the pyramid. It's meant to generate 80% of your business back. So with a pardon for you there. So 1 to few. Let's look at about, I don't know, how many accounts in a 1 to few strategy do you think, Hsiaolei, is suitable?
It's going to really vary by your product and your total addressable market, of course. It can really be anywhere from 100 to 10,000, right? It really just depends.
Okay, so the
sorry, I'm giving you such wishy-washy answers, but it depends.
No, that's fine, because obviously we're going to have a difference between the next two. So 1 to few, I've read, maybe under 100 accounts for few, and then if you're a big business, you go 1 to many, which is all of your accounts. And not to get a bit meta, but this webinar is a great example of an ABM strategy, right? MediaBrains has a number of existing clients and customers who we work with regularly. We've invited them to this webinar. We hope to inform them and help them with their problem solving. Doing this webinar in terms of teaching these theories and practice and putting them into practice at their organizations. And that's kind of how we're looking to problem solve. It's part of an ABM strategy. So it's always on, omni-channel campaign to your entire target list. So I assume we do all these things at the same time. It's not like we run a one-to-one program and next month we want to run to few program and next month we want to one to many program. I assume we have them in concert.
Yeah, I mean, it's do you ever want your funnel to not be filled, right? Do you ever want to be ignoring accounts? And unfortunately, right, and so of course nobody's going to say yes to that. On the other hand, we don't, money doesn't grow on trees. And so, typically you sort of establish ABM over the course of time. So you start with that strategic. As you win those pilots, then you go to the light, then you go to the programmatic. So eventually, right, you're going to always be thinking, year-round touch points with your accounts to keep them always engaged, and sort of maintain the sort of pipeline that you need. But also understand that it can be really scary, right? to be told I have to set all this up, right? So where's my $1 million per month to spend? If I had that, then sure.
You told me 171% increase in deal size.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
just
lot of.
get your CEO to write the
That's a
check.
lot.
And
Yeah. It's just not.
yeah.
This is a real strategy. This is not a crypto. There's a pyramid there, but it's not a pyramid scheme. So the 3 R's, we talked about them before: reputation, relationships, and revenue. Drive preference with name accounts, build reputation in new markets, improve your internal credibility, identify and engage with your key stakeholders, deepen your relationships for insight, develop references, referrals, and advocates, accelerate your pipeline, sell new offerings, that's very important, and enter new markets and increase your win rate and deal size. So we've looked at that. We kind of know what ABM is, but what's the difference between that and what we've been doing already? Lead generation or demand generation marketing. Now, in terms of theories, we all know about the funnel. Customers come at the top, and then we acquire them, and then we nurture them in the funnel, and then we convert them, and the end product is a customer who buys our product. That's the traditional method. We all know that. It's very effective. We're not bad-mouthing this method. If you want to sell trainers or sneakers, sorry, it's a very good method. But if you're a company who are selling batches of sneakers, boxes of sneakers to sneaker stores, maybe you want your ABM strategy. So let's start looking at kind of the core differences between the two. We've moved to the flywheel now, where the customers are at the center. Service, marketing, and sales all working in concert for the customer, understanding the customer's needs and delivering that back to them. There's 3 principles to flywheel: engage, attract, and delight your customers. We hope to do that with this webinar and many of the things that we do as B2B marketers. So it's a new customer-centric approach. We're going to say this a lot: customer-centric, customer centricity, personalization. That complements traditional methods. Existing customers are more central to the marketing strategy. Let's flip lead gen on its head. We attract as many prospects as possible, nurture key accounts, and convert. That's our traditional model. Here, we identify the key accounts at the top. Then we identify them and convert, and they're based on an existing list or people that you've already worked with. It populates the pipeline with the best quality accounts from the absolute beginning, focusing on quantity, quality, depth. Quality over quantity, sorry. Depth over breadth. Now, flipping lead gen on its head has some positive ramifications for sales and marketing. Hsiaolei, what do you think are the main kind of changes that you need to make, or the benefits of an ABM strategy when it comes to sales and marketing alignment?
So, I mean, that's the power of everything, I think, is when these two can align, because sales has to be on the ground, working with customers, and they're going to work best when they're truly enabled, right? When they know what the accounts are sort of up against. What's the tech stack at that account that you sort of have to navigate your product into.
Mm-hmm.
What are the challenges, right, that they're facing? If you have that information, your marketing has empowered them with the right collateral, with the right messaging, sort of giving them everything that they need, then they can go win all these deals, right? So that's at the that enterprise level. Backing up a little bit, right? If your sales team is calling 100 accounts today, which accounts to call, right? You're empowering them with the right accounts, and you're actually giving them accounts even when, right, perhaps the on-site demo request isn't particularly full that day. So it's you can sort of imagine how marketing works with sales, sort of at the super strategic side, at a channel side, and then but even at the I'm cold calling and I'm sort of taking care of everything inbound. You're still directing them into the right direction in terms of which accounts to call, giving them some insights into talk track, this sequence instead of this one, and you can still affect some real change.
That's interesting. It reminds me back of my MBA dissertation. I don't want to remember it too much because I'll get flashbacks. It was a scary period of anyone's life doing a dissertation for your master's. But what I focused on is discrepancies between lead perception between sales and marketing for a larger education company, Laureate. And the discovery was that marketing always perceived there were better leads, and sales always perceived the lead quality was worse. And marketing said, well, if they just did what we said in terms of following up the leads in the way that we said to, they'd get the wins, and then sales would go, well, you're just filling our day with trash leads that we have to get through. And I'm sure this resonates with a lot of people, because sales versus marketing really needs to start becoming sales and marketing. And I think an ABM strategy is a kind of a a way to reach across the aisle as marketers and kind of show that this is, you know, kind of a collaborative exercise. We need a loop, a feedback loop, whereby if you spot an account as a salesperson, or you understand there's an area to grow business, then that needs to be fed into the marketing strategy, and we need to be able to come up with campaigns that are tailored to those businesses. Well, that kind of concludes our fact dumping part of the webinar, where we've kind of bombarded people with facts and screenshots and things from all over the place. And we do have a few questions from our audience. I also have a few questions for you, Hsiaolei, and then we're going to conclude strongly with a recap of some of the terms that we've used, maybe some that we haven't, and then we're going to finish. Well, you'll take it away with finally a recap of why we really should be using ABM right now. I hope that's okay with you, Hsiaolei.
That sounds great.
Right, so I'm looking at my phone. All my questions are coming in. So let's have a look. I've got a question from Jeff. Thank you very much, Jeff. And if you have any more questions, guys, send them in right now. The webinar's is booked for about half an hour. So please send them in now. We'll be able to just about get to them. Now, Jeff, has the cost of ABM come down? In the past, I have been told that a company needs to invest $10,000 plus a month. I mean, how would you take that question, Hsiaolei?
So ABM has become quite prevalent across, you know, the marketing ecosystem. So I would imagine just because of that, there's probably more competitive rates. I also can't actually speak to cost. I would highly recommend talk to MediaBrains about that after the call, and they can certainly help you. You know, the way that I see the world of ABM, you know, it's not one tactic, right? It's thinking about accounts and, you know, that customer engagement sort of across the whole buying journey. And when you think about it that way, it's not like do this for $10,000. It's like, how are you doing anything, right? How are you doing email right now? How could you better segment that email and tailor messaging? And that's just, you know, learning yourself, looking into your own data set. And that doesn't cost anything, just your time and some research. So I would definitely talk to more partners. I definitely talk to MediaBrains, and you know, and that's just so that's my overall take. I'm certain you probably, you know, there's like a platform that says this is your minimum spend and you're gonna have to run all this advertising, but taking an account view does not require, you know, you to do paid media. You can also just do, right, segmenting my email list better.
Well, it's kind of like a strategy by modular design. So, you know, you've got this email solution, you've got a content solution, you might be outsourcing video work, or you can do it in-house. There's loads of decisions you can make to these different modules that can bring down the total cost, unless, of course,
right.
you're outsourcing your entire ABM operation, which doesn't make sense because it's about your company knowing itself and sales and marketing getting together and coming up with a strategy. So,
yeah,
you know, how much of that you should outsource, you know, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Outsourcing, I will say outsourcing, like it, you know, it can be a lot to learn, right? We make it sound like it sounds so easy, right? Just understand what these accounts are researching and tell salespeople. And then, you know, like you mentioned, salespeople are going to be like, I don't want your leads are no good. Or you give them a bunch of data because marketers are really good with data. And the salesperson's like, what is this? What is this? What is this chart you're sending me? I don't know what this means. So, you know, so you can also, like, there is definitely value in having someone, you know, really get you through some proofs of concept, right? Once you have those wins, magically people start paying more attention because, you know, salespeople are motivated by money. So, and I don't mean to say that as a judgment. I'm a salesperson. I am motivated by money. But that's like, you know, the consulting. Sometimes you do need someone to help you because it can be a mind shift change. It can be a transformation. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, that's good. We have another question from Charlie. How do you keep long-term buyers in the early stage of the process interested with email content?
I'm interested in your take as well, but the answer might be not. Some people like to consume content over email and some people don't. And yeah, sometimes sending one a week might be too many for those early stage ones. Maybe they really just wanted your white paper. And then they're going to go back away for a while. Maybe they'll reappear in 6 months, and that's just a reality. So the best approach from my perspective, and I'm speaking less from a Bombora perspective, and now as a my former life, I was a publisher, and I had like 42 email newsletters, is just to have the right variety to make sure that you can empower your prospects to subscribe to the frequency that they want, right? Do they just want this, this industry news from your perspective once a month? To have that as an option, because it's pretty easy to sort of set up multiple segments and just sort of track those. And the reality is that they might not want to keep getting more emails. That does not mean, right, they have to have a negative interaction with you, right? Oh, they spam me too much. Instead, right, say that's okay, right? Sign up once a month. Our content is always here. You can go find our resource page, make sure that is getting its best chance to get viewed. And then just recognize that, you're tracking the account anyway. It doesn't matter if one person unsubscribed, you're tracking the full account, right? How many interactions has that one account had with my paid media, with my website, with my email? All of that together helps you understand where that account is in the journey, rather than just that one interaction with one person. I hope that answered your question, and feel free to pop in and respond more.
So many more questions. How does print fit into your ABM strategy? Can we be sending out flyers and prints and brochures?
I came from a digital media upstart, and I love print. It is there's something still very real about a tactile, piece of marketing, right? A beautiful magazine, right? There's still things to that. So I wouldn't worry about, right? Because if you're thinking about account engagement, right? Who cares? Is it a blog? Is it a newsletter? Is it a banner ad, right? You can still count, right? The print. What do you lose in print? You lose some of the reporting analytics, right? You don't actually know if somebody's seen or opened it. In COVID, deliverability might be more of a challenge as people are more dispersed, working in various locations. I personally spent 6 weeks just sort of traveling the States. So if you were trying to target me with print, you would have a very challenging time. So I wouldn't discount print in terms of a valued engagement. What you lose is trackability, which then makes it really hard to sort of apply to your account scores, right? If you don't know if the account's opened it or read it.
Perfect. Right. So a few more questions. I'm really super happy that people are asking these questions. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of any webinar. If people get to ask questions, fantastic. So thank you very much. A few minutes left to answer more before we kind of wrap up. Why wouldn't you start with a one-to-many strategy first? Wouldn't you get a better sample size on testing your message and its effectiveness versus going one-to-one first for the top of the pyramid?
I love, yeah, sure, right? Absolutely, that'd be great. The challenge is that you need to remember that you have to connect this to sales, right? Because if you just do one-to-many, so you could imagine a pilot where, okay, I'm going to try to target these 1,000 companies. I know they fit into my ideal profile, and I just want to see if I just target those 1,000 companies with ads, will I get better click rates? Sure, right? But we also know that, right, that top of funnel advertising, right, doesn't always give you the best metrics that way. And what ABM can actually do, right, is it can approach the full funnel. So if you are just, sending a million ads out, then you'll still have low click rates. They might be a little bit better, right? But they still could be low click rates. And then what are you missing? You're missing the fact that, like, hey, now here's 1,000 companies that, I could see saw my ads. What are my sales teams doing with that, right? Am I sending that to them in any way to sort of get more value than just that, they might have clicked? That's why you might want to think about a more tailored approach, because you want to make sure that you are empowering sales as much as running an interesting new ad campaign. I hope that made sense.
Well, definitely. And if we look back at 80-20, if you start with the 80% of the customers that are going to give you 20% of your business rather than the 20 that are going to give you your 80% of your business, then, I mean, it might be best to make sure you understand who your key accounts are, because it's all about business generation. You're going to generate the most of your business with your trusted, loyal clients who've been working with you, been solving problems with all that time. I don't think it's mutually exclusive either.
Absolutely.
They're totally
Yeah.
different. Us doing this webinar today is very different from us maybe sending a personalized piece of content to a key account. It's a different exercise. The end result is the same. We want to solve our customers' problems and generate more business, but
right.
it's done in a
And
very different way.
absolutely. And then it's just right. So even in this webinar versus sending a personalized email, at some point you're still tracking it, right? You're saying, okay, even in this like one-to-many webinar, right? We just push this out. And then, hey, we happen to find, this key value prospect, participate in the webinar, and that's great. But in the end, right, I'm tracking that because I'm trying to empower, right, more smarter marketing automation or BDR support, things like that. And so I think that's the challenge is if you just do the target the 10,000 companies, you should do that. You should see if the click rates are higher and working for you, and then you should also figure out how can I best leverage the results of this, right? Is it just that I got to serve ads, or what did I do downstream? If it's not a BDR, if it's more automation, a bigger newsletter
Right.
list, whatever it is. Just think about that downstream effect.
Okay, I'm going to have two more questions because we won't have time for all of them, which is a blessing to have so many questions today. Travis, do you have any examples of companies that shouldn't do ABM or are not ready for ABM? It's a great question. Who's not ready for this?
Actually at Bombora, we're actually sort of a new company. We've only been around for 6 years, and we sort of created this intent marketplace, which means that we collect all this really, really powerful data and then give it back to marketers to leverage for marketing initiatives, sales initiatives. And we actually only work directly with customers of over 100 employees, because that's sort of been a line for us in terms of like, can you actually consume this amount of data and leverage it? Because if you can't really leverage it yet, then we're not going to be a fit, and and we don't want you to leave with a bad taste in your mouth, especially within 2 years you grow and then we're ready, right?
And you need it, yeah.
And so
We had a guest here who mentioned that Francisco mentioned someone with a budget. He mentioned Francisco said someone with a budget.
And that's actually not a rule for us. We do really try to stick with that list. And for anyone that's smaller than that, that's okay, because we have about 35 activation partners that work directly with someone that can work with you, that can sort of make sense of all this data and give you the outcomes that you're looking for. And that's just working directly with like MediaBrains or other publisher partners, other channel partners to sort of activate it. So there are, you sort of have to have some level of sophistication. At the same time, we've had accounts where it's 2 salespeople that got in, started seeing your data, made calls, right? Those are really sophisticated, good salespeople that could just do that. But for the most part, those were unique situations.
Yeah. I mean, we all know about cold calling versus warm leads. ABM is in the warm lead area, or hot leads because they've already become customers. So in terms of budget, yes, you'll need some kind of established organization to do it with existing customers. If you're a brand new company going to market, then you're selling consumer goods, then you won't need your ABM strategy off the bat. That's something you could deal with later when you start doing wholesale work or whatever. So thank you, Travis, for that question. Let's see if we can finish with one question. Another question from Charlie that I really like. How much is too much engagement? Am I scaring leads off by sending them content more than once a week? Spamming. Can we end up spamming people in ABM?
I think if you're getting the engagement, then no. I mean, we had super fans that were literally opening 2 emails a day, and that sounds like a crazy amount of content to consume. But if your open rates are fine, then then continue on. I do think it's important to have a diversity of ways that people can engage, because some people like newsletters, some people don't. Some people might want to subscribe and follow, and then that also doesn't mean that they are sending you you don't want to get like 6 LinkedIn messages from them either. So so I think it's just about having a variety of frequencies that that they can opt into. They can see sort of what kind of newsletter it is. And I know that sounds like I just have to create more content, but you have a lot of content already. So what you're really doing is writing email copy with the content that you already have, and just letting your prospects choose their own adventure.
Okay, fantastic. Now, I'm not going to go through all these terms. This is not going to be a long going through everything and reading out all of these different terms. This is your glossary of terms. If you'd like to take a screenshot, now is your chance. Go and snap that so you can remember it later. You can impress your friends about your knowledge of firmographic data. We didn't touch on that today. That's a bit different. Account tiering we've discussed, the playbook that you have to have, awareness of your accounts, engagement, insight, the clusters, that's maybe a one-to-few process where you need a cluster of accounts to deal with. And we're going to finish our webinar today. Thank you for everyone's questions. But just a recap of why we really need ABM. So, Hsiaolei, why do we need ABM?
There's a lot of answers on this, and as you can see, we're pretty passionate about ABM as a solution for everything. So let me just focus on this this graphic here on the right, the Gartner graphic. 17% of the time in the buying journey is actually spent talking to you, talking to your brand. That means, right, 83% of that time is not with you. They are learning about your brand, your solution, your products by not talking to you. So how can you solve that, right? Like that seems really scary, right? It is about producing the right content. It's about letting people subscribe and opt in, sort of come when they're ready. And sort of just making sure that every storefront you have, social, email, website, they're all easy to use. And then also all of them should be syncing together. You should be able to sort of see the data from all of these interactions, right? These banner ads to social to website. So you can actually start to figure out in that 83%, which of those people, which of those companies are likely in market. So how do you get, how do you influence the 83% when they don't call you, right? That's what ABM is supposed to be doing. It's to understand every other part of that journey and making sure that they're getting the most relevant content. You're influencing their research, before they opt in for the demo. So that's what we try to accomplish.
And people are getting sick of ads. Simple as that.
And right? Also that, right? Also
people
that,
are getting
right?
sick of ads. I'm getting sick of ads. I'm considering YouTube Premium. That's how sick of ads I'm getting. So in conclusion, guys, whether you're listed with MediaBrains already, or I hope you are, therefore you are part of an account-based marketing strategy today, or you're completely new to MediaBrains, and this is more of a lead generation exercise for you guys, we have a suite of products to help you jumpstart your ABM efforts. All you have to do is click on the link that you've been sent in the chat, click on the link that you've been sent in the email that you might have received if you weren't watching this live, or click on the link in the description to the YouTube video that you're watching. Basically, click on the link and can have a look at our offerings and how we can help you solve your customers' problems and build up your ABM strategy. Thank you so much, Hsiaolei, for your insight. I learned a lot in this session. I must admit, I wasn't an expert before I started this journey of understanding about ABM for this webinar, and you've been my mentor for that. So thank you very much.
No, thank you so much for having me. You did fantastic. You actually taught me quite a bit too. So and thank you so much. And also MediaBrains for having me on. This has been great. Yeah, happy to connect after if anybody's interested.
Okay, guys. So thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this intense lunch of data and facts. This is MediaBrains. Stay tuned for monthly webinars, insight, and different topics covering the whole marketing spectrum. Thank you. My name is Joe Bryan. Thank you, and have a good day, whatever you're doing. Make it a productive one. Thank you very much.